All right, welcome back. Now we're going to be talking about accountability as it relates to your buyer's agents. And this is probably one of the easiest areas for you to get up and running and get an accountability plan that works in place. Because remember, when it comes to your buyer's agents, they're the players and you're the coach. So there's a few things that you have to do and you have to do well. And that is practice regularly. And when I talk about practice in the concept of they're the player and you're the coach, what I mean by that is your weekly accountability meeting. So what is that cadence of accountability? What is that structure? And then holding them accountable in their weekly targets. So what measurables have you set up for your people to hit? We're gonna get into all that in this training. And then the idea of keeping score. There's no point in practicing and playing the game well if we're not gonna keep score. So you have to, as a good coach, make sure that you're keeping score for your people. So when we have the agents do their measurables, this is like a major pet peeve of mine because I think that most people in our industry are tracking too many things. And I've done it too. I've been on that plan where we're tracking 15, 21 things. But it's like this old concept of don't measure what you're not going to manage, or better yet, don't manage something that doesn't matter. And a lot of times that happens. We get in, we're like, oh, okay, so we're managing all this. And surely if we're managing these things and we're getting good results, if we manage more things, we'll get better results. And I found the opposite of that to be true. I've actually found that if we manage fewer things and manage them well, we'll get the most amount of results out of our people. Because there was a time and place where I was managing things like amount of hours out on the street, amount of homes that you showed, amount of thank you cards that you wrote, amount of this or that. And they're all good things, don't get me wrong. But if we track the big things, those little things will be accounted for within those big things. So this is what we manage. We manage the dials and we refer to that as contact attempt made. So, and I'll even say that could be a text message. So if you're reaching out to somebody, we call it dials. If you're trying to make contact with them through all means necessary, then we manage the context. These are people that you spoke to. Now, it could be somebody you spoke to and had a great conversation with and now you're working with, awesome. It could also be somebody you spoke to and they say, you know what, we were just on your website because we were in the area this weekend and we were just curious. We have no intention of buying. We actually didn't even want to move there or like the area that much. We're gonna stay where we are. Cool, because once you make contact with them, you're then able to disposition that lead. And now you're not gonna waste your time or their time continuing to follow up because you've made contact, you've spoken to. And then there's new appointments set. So these are people that you have not met with previously. So the brand new people that you're meeting for the first time. And it's important to distinguish that because we're gonna develop ratios of dials to contacts, ratios of contacts to new appointments set. And if we're just putting any old appointment in there, like another showing appointment to go out with another buyer that we've already met with 5 times, it's gonna make our ratios inaccurate and really, honestly, worthless. So it's important that we understand what each of these mean and that we communicate that to our team so that we can get really good data from it. And I'll show you how that data is gonna help you in a minute. Then we have new appointments had because we wanna track the appointments set to the appointments kept, right? So by tracking new appointments set and new appointments had, we're gonna get that ratio. Then we're gonna track agency signed. So how many times are you meeting with somebody and getting that agency signed? It's really important to know. And that can be a state agreement, a state buyer's agent agreement, a loyalty agreement, and then follow-up conversations. Now follow-up, as we determine it on our team, are people that you've met with, but they're not under contract yet. And this is an area in a lot of people's businesses where I see them missing the ball. They meet with people, they do a lot of the front end stuff right. They're really quick about speed to lead and getting on the phone with them, and they're really diligent about making contact with them. But then they meet with them and then let's say they're 6 months out from buying or maybe even a year out from buying or more. They're looking at buying and they're gonna buy, but it's when they retire or when they sell their house in another area. And these people get lost in this met with but not under contract stage. So we really focus on the follow-up conversations, making sure that if we've already taken the time to dial, contact, and set an appointment to meet with somebody, let's not lose that person in this sea of forgetfulness where we met with them, but we're not following up with them. Let's stay diligent about that. But I also don't want follow-up conversations to be people that you worked with, you moved right through the sales pipeline, and now they're under contract. And now it's, hey, I'm following up with you to schedule the home inspection. I'm following up with you to, buy the home warranty. Like, it's really easy to follow up with those people. And we don't want to confuse that follow-up with people that we're trying to move to that next stage of the sales pipeline. So make that distinction for your people. It's really important. And then obviously we want to track new contracts, because that is the icing on the cake. That's why we're going through this whole series. So as a sales manager, there's some other things that we got to track too. So this is really what we put on our agents right here. Every week they're tracking these items that they do, these prospecting activities. But what we're tracking as a sales manager is we're tracking things like live call answer rate. So when a call comes into your company, how many times are they answering that call live? Meaning the person didn't have to leave a message or miss a call and then we call them back. Really important that you track this. Here's a question for you though. Are you able to track that right now? And if you can't, that could be a hole in your boat. That could be an area to really focus in on and figure, how can I do this? Like, my current systems don't allow me to do that. We use a system called Dialogue Tech, which I absolutely love because it allows us to track every incoming call that comes in. So you'd be thinking about that. And then database lead limits. Again, here's an area where don't set a limit if you're not willing to manage it. Because what'll happen is you'll set it today, and then a year from now, people have hundreds of leads in there. So we have a lead limit of 100 per agent. If you have more than 100, you got to send them back, and then we put those into what we call the lake, which I'll talk about here in this training a little bit later on. And then individual agent goal progress. So every one of our agents has their own personal goal. And all of those collective personal goals is what makes up our team goal. But it's really important for you as their coach, right? Because you're going to be their coach, to know what is their individual goal. And even more important, why is that their goal? Because it's not about the money. It never is. It's not about, I want to sell X amount of houses this year. That's not their real goal. The real goal is, why do they want that? Why will that matter to them? What impact is that going to have for them or their family? When you know that, that's being a great coach to your people. And then what is the agent production? So 2 deals a month quota, that's how we do it. Now, it's not to say that every month every agent gets 2 deals or they're gone. We'll look at this on a rolling quarter average. So, okay, well, you had no deals this month, but you had 4 next month. Okay, that's great. You're averaging 2 a month, but you have to manage this, because here's my feeling on this. Quotas are there to protect the opportunity for your whole company. Because if we know that we're providing enough opportunity for them to hit this quota and they're not hitting it, they're taking a seat from somebody on the team that could be hitting that quota. So what I mean is, let's say I have 5 agents and 4 agents are hitting this quota or more every single quarter. Awesome. And I got 1 agent that's averaging 1 a month. Something is wrong with that scenario. Either that agent's not putting in the effort, we're not helping that agent overcome obstacles, but at the end of the day, like, they're holding a seat on the bus that could go to somebody that could do that or more. And that's robbing your company of its potential and also somebody else of a great opportunity. So that's the whole concept behind having quotas and managing them. You want to either help coach them up, or sometimes you got to coach them out. And that's just the reality of the game. So when it comes to buyer's agents, we use a third-party system so that we can collect their prospecting effort data, because it helps with the following. So in the past, I would try to do all this myself. And, what I found is that it was really difficult for me to manage all this. It was like cumbersome to try to get all the data. And then after all that effort, I'd have the data, but it wasn't really in a form that I could do anything with. So I went out and I saw what systems out there will let me collect the data more easy and be able to use that data to help serve my people and coach them. So what we found is that it helps us collect the data automatically. So the system sends out an email every morning and they can fill it in. They can also go back to any of those emails at any time and add in their prospecting efforts. So if they just got done from a prospecting session and they know they're not doing any more prospecting that day, they can go to that email and put it in right then. They don't have to wait for the email to come out tomorrow morning. It helps me analyze the results across the whole company. So I can take every agent's individual effort and I can look on that on a day range, on a week range, on a custom date range, on a year-to-date range, and I can compare and contrast that to any one person within the company or the whole company as a whole, and see, are they at average, or are they below average? It's really powerful, and it allows me to have very effective conversations with my agents when we sit down and talk about accountability. It also provides historical references. So, throughout the seasonality of the year, you might be feeling like the sales manager, if you've just come off of a really busy season, oh man, like I feel like they're not doing anything, they're not getting any results, what's going on? You could go into panic mode. But if you have the historic data and you can go back and look at, well, what were we doing at this exact time last year? With the custom date range of a tool like this, you're gonna be able to see and compare and contrast. What are the results we're getting today at this time of year versus this time of year last year? Very, very helpful. Certainly gives me peace of mind too. And then discover training opportunities quickly. So this is something I really want you to understand. When it comes to accountability in my people embrace the accountability. Matter of fact, I think some of our agents are here because of the accountability. And that might go against everything you feel or think, because you're like, oh, my people are gonna hate this. They're gonna feel like they're regimented, and they're gonna feel like we're micromanaging them. And I say, that's only if you don't do this well. If you do this well, what you're gonna find is that your agents will embrace it because you're helping to connect the dots for them. You're helping them to understand that by doing this thing, by putting in this effort, I'm gonna get this result. And when we track our data, what we're able to find is, hey, we got these different things that we track, right? I'm gonna go back and show you this slide. So we have these different things that we're tracking. And what it's gonna do is it's going to allow us to say, okay, we're tracking their dials, we're tracking their contacts, we're tracking their new appointments set, we're tracking their appointments had, we're tracking their agency agreements, their follow-up conversations, and their contracts. I can dial into any specific one of those things and see where the hole in their boat is. Because let's assume that they're making the dials, and based on the ratios across the whole company, they're doing a good job. And they're setting a lot of, they're talking to a lot of people, and they're setting a lot of appointments. But let's say they're not having a lot of appointments show up. Now I know exactly, as their coach, where to be effective and where to go help them improve. Because I'll go right to that area and say, okay, you're doing everything right up until this point. But for some reason, your ratios of appointments set to appointments kept is very low. Tell me, what are you saying on the phone to them? And then we can role play that. And that's the specific area where I, as their coach, can have the most impact with them. And that's where they start to see that the connecting the dots happens. And that's why I'm so passionate about only tracking things that matter. Because if I put the burden on them to track all these other things that don't fall into the sales pipeline, I've just created busy work for them. And then they feel like I'm micromanaging them. And they can't see that there's a tie-in to that data in the results that they're getting. So that's your job as their coach. So I want you to really take this exercise to heart, because this could have a major impact in your business. What consistent measures are you taking to hold your buyer's agents accountable? Like, be real with yourself. Like, what are you doing right now? And what do you need to improve in this area? Is it a new system to be able to track calls? Is it a new system to be able to track their data points? And for us, we use a system called KDNA, or Knowledge DNA. And you can go to knowledgedna.com and learn about that. I don't receive anything from it. I've just found it to be a great system. Matter of fact, I've tried other systems, and my agents have asked for me to go back to this system, just because I'm always testing and seeing, is there something better? But we've been using this for years now, and it's worked really, really good. And then what is one thing you can start doing immediately, and how will it help you and help them? Really think about it from that perspective. Like, if we're gonna put accountability measures in place, let's be really clear about how it's gonna help the company manage and hold the agents accountable, and how it's gonna be better for the agents. Because again, when you do this correctly, your agents should and will embrace it.